Hi, it's Dr. Rebecca Cardona here with Fear Nothing Coaching. And today I just want to spend a little time talking about what it means to manage and understand stress. So, in order for us to manage stress effectively, we have to understand what is stress and what is stressing us. So I'm going to start with actually defining stress and what stress is as a way to understand it. Okay. So stress is feeling tense or anxious or worry or pressure. And that oftentimes will result in mental, emotional, physical, and relational strain, right? And that mental, emotional, physical, and or relational strain can be either professional or personal or both. So you feel tense, you feel anxious, you feel worried, you feel pressure. It results in an increase in mental, emotional, physical, and relational strain. And this is happening because one of two things: an increase in demanding circumstances or adverse circumstances. Either one, and it could be both. It could be that you've had an increase in demanding circumstances or adverse circumstances. And this has created hostile, unfavorable, conflictual, or disagreeing experiences. And if this continues, if this stress, right, the feeling, what it results in because of certain circumstances, if this is ongoing over time, then you will experience a decrease in your overall physical, mental, emotional, and relational well-being, again, both personally and professionally. So now that we have a pretty clear definition of what stress is and understanding what stress is, I'm going to move into, okay, how do we manage stress? And I'm just going to give a couple tips on how we can go about managing stress in ways that are more helpful than maybe what you're doing now. So what I want you to do is I want you to identify the top 2 to 3 stressors in your life. This life is challenging, no doubt, and we probably have, about 6 to 7, if not more, stressors at any given time. But for this exercise, I just want you to identify no more than 3, but 2 to 3. So once you've identified 2 to 3 stressors, I want you to identify the following with each stressor. How do you feel? So for example, if I have identified that a stressor in my life is my job and working with my boss, then I would say, okay, my stressor is my job and working with my boss. And when I experience this, I feel anxious, I feel sick to my stomach, my thoughts race, I feel very distracted, and I feel very burnt out. And the next question, after you identify what your stressor is and how do you feel, is what does it result in? When you feel this, what happens? So I feel anxious, I feel worried, I feel sick to my stomach, my thoughts race, and I burn out. And when I experience this, I have high levels of irritability, my motivation decreases, I have headaches, I withdraw from people and things that I enjoy, and I find myself drinking more. So we've identified 2 to 3 stressors. We've identified how we feel. When we feel that way, what does it result in? And then the third thing that I want you to identify is this is happening because of blank circumstance. So I've identified that my stressor is my job and working with my boss, but I need to specifically identify this is happening because I feel like that I'm trying to do a good job and I'm not succeeding. So this is happening because of blank circumstance. Be specific. Okay, so now that we have the stressor, how do we feel? What does it result in? And we've identified exactly what circumstance is causing that stress. I want you to rate this stressor on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being absolutely no stress around the stressor, and you're probably not going to be there, or otherwise it wouldn't be a stressor, right? To 10 max. So it could be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with 10 being the max. So I'm going to rate this stressor of I don't like my job and I don't like working with my boss at coming in at a 7 on my scale of 0 to 10. Now, what we're going to be able to do is to identify an action step that's going to bring that stressor down a 0.5 or a 1 point in 1 to 2 weeks. Okay. So I came in at a 7 on my stress scale, with 10 being the max. And so over the next 1 to 2 weeks, I'd like to bring it down to a 6 or a 6.5. So I'm going to develop some actions that will help me do that. In order for you to identify successful actions, I need you to have a mindset of this. It's not about what's happened, but what I need to do about it or with it. So, for example, my stressor is my job and working with my boss. I'm not going to stay in that. I'm not going to stay stuck in that my stressor is, my job and working with my boss, but I'm going to shift my mindset into what can I do about it? What do I need to do about it? Or what do I need to do with it? All right. So before you develop your action, I need you to have a mindset. It's not about what's happened, but what you're going to do about it, or what you need to do with it, or what you need to do about it. Okay. Now, the second tip before you identify your action step is to focus on what you can influence and control with yourself, not with others. So I'm going to say that again. The focus has to be on what you can influence and control with yourself and not at others. So example, your action step can't be, I need my boss to lighten up. Well, you cannot influence or control that. It has to be with yourself, you on you. All right. So your action steps need to be simple and consistent and individualized and incremental and gradual. So that's why I say when we're looking at stress goals, we only want to go from a 0.5 to a 1 over 1 to 2 weeks, if that. All right. So once you have a mindset about what you need to do about it or with it, and the focus has to be on yourself, that's when you move into your action step. So my stressor is that it's my job, and I don't like working with my boss or for my boss. So with a mindset of what do I need to do about it or with it, and the focus being on myself, knowing that I want to move from a 7 to a 6, then my action steps are going to be the following. Okay. I am not going to predict the future. So I'm going to stay in the day and stay in the moment versus predicting what he or she may do or what's coming next. I'm not going to do that because that's only going to take my energy. The second thing that I'm going to look at as an action step is that what do I need to do to give less time and energy to worry? So what can I do less so that I'm not worrying or giving this circumstance more time and energy than it needs? So that, for example, may be, well, I have to come to accept that my boss's expectations are a little higher or not reasonable. And once you enter into that acceptance, then you do the best that you can. So my action step would be, I'm going to do the best that I can without giving any extra energy to expectations that I can't meet, right? So I'm not going to predict the future, and I'm not going to give any time or extra energy into expectations that I can't meet, but I'm going to have more of an acceptance that I'm going to do what I can and do my best. So with those two action steps, my goal is to decrease my stress from a 7 to a 6 over the next week to 2 weeks. So this concludes my little talk on understanding stress and also how to manage stress. And if you find yourself stuck or not having clarity or awareness, then definitely reach out. A coach is somebody that can help you do this and do it in a way that's beneficial to the overall quality of life and well-being, both personally and professionally. That's the domain that I work in. So, but reach out if you find yourself getting stuck to me or to any other individuals that may be able to help you through understanding your stress. Again, identifying it, what it results in, and then specific action steps in which you can achieve your goals and increase your quality of life and well-being, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and relationally versus it taking from you. Okay, well, that concludes our talk today, and it's Dr. Rebecca Cardona with Fear Nothing Coaching.